Hi, my name is Chris, aka The Philosopher's Games, or TPH Games as my little games channel here is called, and today I want to highlight some fantastic mods for Cyberpunk 2077 that I would recommend and think are almost must-have mods. Interestingly, Cyberpunk will receive a 2.0 update relatively soon. That means most mods will stop working for some time, and some of the features I might show you today will also become live in the actual game without modifications. For example, the Immersive Rippers mod. Also, this is just a showcase. I already made a tutorial video, I'll link it in the description, how to install those mods, but that is not the topic of today's video here. Also, I would recommend to make a backup copy of your unmodified Cyberpunk 2077 folder just in case. This also can help you to switch back to an older version, but of course you need the space on your hard drive for it. And my last few hints, I will post a link to a spreadsheet document in the description and in a pinned post potentially, where I will list you all the mods I show you here today in the showcase and even more that I might show you in a future episode of this mod showcase format here. And there are also the download links to that in it as well. At the beginning of that document, and also now here on screen, also in the tutorial video, I show you the most commonly required basic utility mods for Cyberpunk, like Cyber Engine tweaks. It's around about 10, and if you have installed those, you will fulfill most requirements for most mods you find on Nexus Mods. However, always check the requirements section, because some mods, like if you want to add some cars to the game, they often require some additional mods. The current version of the game at the time of recording is 1.63 plus Hotfix. Keep in mind, as said, when Phantom Liberty comes out and the big 2.0 update, mods will stop working for some time. Usually it's a few days, but with a big update, it might take the modders a little bit longer. But let us finally start. I already mentioned in the tutorial video Cyber Engine tweaks, a fantastic mod that is often required, but it also has some cool features in of itself. For example, you can make the game utilize your AMD processor better. That was kind of patched in patch 1.5 if I remember correctly, but still not optimal for some people, so this mod might help you there. And there's also some cool other features, like you don't have to press spacebar when you boot up the game to load into the main menu, stuff like that. Very useful. Check all the features there. It also has a console, which gives you all kinds of cheat codes, so if you are already through the game and just want to play around, very useful to have. I'll link you also a document with all the potential console commands for Cyber Engine tweaks in the description. Though a challenge might be to find the right key to open it. Another mod I already showed in the tutorial video is Simple Flashlight. That is an awesome mod, adding a feature to the game that should be in the base game in my opinion, and it simply adds a flashlight as the name suggests. In the menu you can even change the color of it, the brightness of it. You get quite a few options, which is pretty awesome. Unfortunately, it does not cast shadows. The default key to activate it is T on the keyboard in Cyber Engine tweaks. You can also add an additional key for it if you want, under bindings. The other mod I also mentioned in the tutorial video was Enable RayTracing Player Reflection. And by default in the game, your player has no reflection in little puddles or in windows and so on. This mod changes this, but there's one downside. By default, your head of your player model is not rendered, and so you only see your body rendered in those reflections. Usually you don't see your body in full in those reflections, like in a puddle on the ground full anyway, and I feel like it definitely adds to the game even without the head. If you use another mod we talk about next, which is the appearance menu mod, you can toggle on your player's head, but this has a downside that if you look up you see your hair. So it's not ideal to do this, but in theory it would also be possible to render your head. Another utility mod I also want to mention is a CTD Helper. It is the Crash to Desktop helper, and if you install the mod and the game just crashes instantly, you sometimes don't know what is going on. This mod creates a log file that allows you to make conclusions on what the reason for that is. Very helpful if you deal with mods. But let us now come to the first not utility mod in the game, called Named Saves. And as the name suggests, it allows you to name your save games. I think it only works with new save games you create, and it can be very helpful. Not for everyone, but for me, for example, making content and having to load different save files to record stuff, this is insanely helpful. And if you don't want to use it, you don't have to enter a comment for your save. So it basically has no downsides having it installed. If you need it, you can use it. If not, you don't use it. It's a fantastic mod, and I would definitely recommend it to basically everyone. Appearance menu mod. This is a very big one and also kind of a classic, but it has a lot of functionality, and it's maybe more a mod for people who have already played through the game and just want to try out stuff, because it has a lot of, let's call it, cheat functionality, but also some very useful utility features. For example, you can freeze and unfreeze the game, for example, for taking screenshots. That can be very, very helpful, though you could also use the photo mode for it, I guess. You can skip frames forward though, so it gives you a little bit more control over things. But it also has like a God mode and all kinds of other things. What I really like is you can change the daytime with it without going into the menu. And with it, if you go a bit back and forward with the slider, you can also change the weather. We also come to weather in a moment, and that is insanely useful. Also for screenshots or for little videos you want to maybe make to just get the right mood, the right lighting for your screenshot, for your video. Very powerful feature. Then my favorite feature, and also kind of the reason why it's named like that, if you aim at an object, you can change how it looks. For example, cars, but also NPCs and so on. Like if you, for example, call your own car and just say, hey, I want my Caliburn look differently today, you can do this with this mod with just a few clicks. It's very easy, and I like this functionality a lot. Keep in mind though that some NPCs have like nude models and stuff like this, so it's definitely not safe for work if you do this with NPCs. Speaking of NPCs, you can also go to spawn and spawn NPCs that will help you then. For example, you can spawn Jackie and also give him guns and stuff, and then he runs around with you and even shoots at enemies. He goes into the car as well. It's of course not ideal, but it is definitely a very cool feature. If you think, oh, this mission would be great to have an ally with me, like have Jackie with me, you can definitely do this. So that's pretty awesome. Another cool feature is called target tools. For example, if you target like a car or whatever, sometimes it also can work with NPCs if they're not moving. Then you can change the position, spin them around. You can place objects and use other objects in the game, move them around as well, and maybe create a funny scene for a screenshot or something like that. It definitely has a lot of functionality here. Very useful if you combine this with, for example, the decoration spawning functionality. Another function I want to mention is swapping NPCs, so you can, for example, mark an NPC you see on the street and say that it should now be Jackie. And then you can also give them animations, which is a very cool, relatively new feature in this mod. So you can say, yeah, Jackie should wave or whatever. You can also do this. So that's very, very cool. After you have set up what the selected character should be swapped to, you have to load the game again. You can also quick save, quick load also works, and then you see the character swapped. I also mentioned already you can toggle on V's head with this mod, so in the reflection you now see the complete V, not only his headless body, but if you look up, as said, in the other section you see the hair, so there's a huge downside to this. You can also toggle to third-person camera. The game is not designed to be played in third-person camera walking around, but it is possible and it kind of works. But keep in mind that the animations are not designed to look good here in third person. That is why they often look completely off or very funny or wonky at times. So there's that, but the functionality is there. Another cool feature is also teleporting around, just saving the time. I need to go to the afterlife, make a little video there, just teleport there. You can also create your own teleport points. There's a selection already in the mod itself, but you can also create your own. Very useful. Limited HUD. That is, in my opinion, a very useful mod that can give players that don't like HUD elements a lot of control when what HUD element is shown in the game. There are tons of mods that get rid of all the HUD elements, but this one, in my opinion, is potentially the best, because you can set up in the options menu not only that every HUD element is gone, but you can also say that, for example, when you are in combat, then maybe show me the HP bar and the minimap, or maybe the quest tracker and so on, or if I pull out my weapon, or if I'm in stealth. So we have tons of options when what HUD element is visible on screen, and that is pretty awesome. I think the only HUD element, for whatever reason, that you can't control is the stamina bar, but you can deactivate it in the options menu under interface. So check that out. Also, I want to hint at Cyber Engine tweaks and the appearance mod manager. If you go to bindings in Cyber Engine tweaks and have the appearance mod installed, you can also set a toggle key for HUD elements, but it won't toggle off all the HUD elements. Like the quest marker is really hard to get rid of. This mod also can get rid of the quest marker and also the car symbol sign and so on. So very powerful and very useful, especially if you don't want to see any HUD elements. This also is possible. Oh, I forgot. You can also change the color of certain HUD elements as well. I guess the only downside is that you need some time to set it up the way you like. But you can all do this in-game in the mod's options menu. You don't have to fill around with some ini files or something. Neon Rims color control. This is one of my favorite mods, I think, especially if you like cruising around with your motorcycle. In one patch, CD Projekt added that you can turn on your tire lights, like there's like the feature that your tire rims, or whatever the correct term is, glow in the dark and produce some light, which looks very cool with RayTracing and some reflections. Very awesome. This mod now allows you to change the color of your tire lights, and that is pretty cool. You can also set 3 different colors and then click on the gamer mode, and then the color switches through in an interval which you also can change. A very cool mod if you like that kind of stuff, and can look very cool in screenshots as well. Oh, I almost forgot. With this you can also change the color of headlights for motorcycles and for cars. The default key to activate your tire rim lights for motorcycles is E, and sometimes it's a bit bugged and then it just honks. Default key for activating headlights for cars and motorcycles should be Alt. Street vendors. That is also one of my favorite mods. Even though it's so simple and seemingly adding very little to the game, it kind of makes it more immersive in my opinion. That's what I like about this mod. And it's another case of that should be in the base game. What it does is it allows you to trade with basically every street vendor you see in the game. In the base game, it's only very selected ones you can actually interact with. Here, it allows you to just go to some NPC selling these delicious looking skewers and buy a hot dog there. Usually also quite fitting, so you see a food vendor, you can buy food, you see a drink vendor, you can buy drinks, you see a junk vendor, you can buy some junk there. And that, in my opinion, is already adding to the game, and it's very cool because now the decoration in the game, so some of these stands are just there for decoration, become interactive. And maybe you just need a drink or some food to just get this food and drink buff in combination with some other mods that can be very useful. And now you have the option to just go there and buy something. And that feels very awesome. Of course, the game has tons of vending machines as well and so on, but I kind of like going through these markets and just buying something in the back streets. That's, in my opinion, pretty awesome and makes Night City feel more alive. Also, this is only one of several nice immersion mods that we will cover next. I think you can also use this mod on your first playthrough because it doesn't really change the gameplay. Before we come to this, alternative food and drinks buffs. In the base game, every food is just a common item and gives the same buff. This mod changes this, and now food comes in different rarities and give different buffs depending on that, which is, in my opinion, pretty cool. The biggest downside is, though, that sometimes you see like some rare item in the distance and it's just, I don't know, a burrito. Immersive food vendors. This mod now allows you to not only get to the trading menu if you talk in a bar to the owner, but actually eat a burger, a sandwich, sushi or whatever there. And that, in my opinion, is pretty cool because it plays a little animation and it feels like, yeah, I was there and was really eating something. You even lose money buying those, and I think it also should give you the buff doing that. Same with Immersive Bartenders. This mod does basically the same, just with drinks and in certain bars. Immersive Rippers. In the base game, if you go to a Ripper dog, he just sits somewhere in a dark corner, you talk to him, a menu opens and then you change your cyberware. Well, this also does not change with this mod, but at least this mod allows you to sit down on the chair and then talk to the Ripper dog, which makes this whole procedure more immersive. Immersive Vik. There's one Ripper dog in the game that has some additional animations in what he does, and that is of course Vik. But you still don't get the whole procedure of getting modified, but at least he stands up, moves his chair around, sits next to you, and that is basically what this mod does. And I think it's pretty cool and definitely adds already to the game. It should be like that in the base game, and patch 2.0 will actually add this to the base game. Night City interactions. This mod is also pretty cool and only works at certain very specific places defined on the mod page of this mod, and it allows you to go, for example, to a bar and have a drink with a character from the game, like here in this footage with Jackie, but it also works with some other characters that you meet later in the game. I don't want to spoil too much here. It also considers what progress you have made in the game, which is also pretty cool. Real vendor names. This is a very small quality of life mod, and what it does is it adds to the map of Night City, if you hover over an icon, the actual name of that place. So if there's like a bar or, I don't know, a clothing shop, you now see what name it is. And this also should be in the base game, but now this mod adds this little functionality to the game, which I find pretty cool. Kiroshi Opticals. This mod adds a little biography if you scan any NPC in the game. It's also just a little immersive mod, and it doesn't work perfectly, but I think it's kind of cool that you can read a little story about some NPCs you might meet there, or think, oh, this guy looks cool, what could have happened to him, what is his story? And you can now just scan him and get some information, even though it's made up by the modder, but it's pretty cool in my opinion. Talk to Me. Another interesting little immersion mod that I quite like because it also makes Night City feel a bit more alive. What it does is basically if you pass an NPC, there's a probability that it will say something to you. And it's basically like going to an NPC and pressing F, and then there's usually a couple of lines that can be heard there. However, it definitely adds something to the game because now it feels like the world reacts to you, and you also hear some interesting voice lines where you just walk through the streets at times. It can also be a bit annoying for sure, so try it definitely out if you like it. Weather Probability Rebalance. That is a very cool mod because with some patch they changed how the weather probability is set up in the game. And it becomes very difficult at times, if you want to make like a cool screenshot or whatever, to have the perfect weather situation. And at certain daytimes in the base game, getting like rain is almost impossible and takes like a lot of filling around, even with the appearance menu mod. And this mod just rebalances the probabilities for certain daytime weather combinations, or in general certain weathers to appear. And I like that a lot, and the results are, in my opinion, pretty recommendable if you want to have more variety in your weather. And also finding the right weather using the time slider in the appearance menu mod is very helpful. So I would definitely recommend installing this. Metro system. This is definitely a highlight, and I'm always amazed that this actually works. But what this mod does is adding a train system, a metro system to the game. And it's pretty awesome. I would also recommend using this on your first playthrough, simply because it doesn't really change the gameplay. I guess in many cases it's actually more complicated using the metro than fast travel or your cars and so on. But it's still very cool. And it also considers what parts of Night City you have already access to, though you can deactivate this in the settings of this mod. And it's so cool to just drive through Night City in your little train, looking out of the window when it rains. The two default models of the train have this water or rain at the window effect, which I find very cool. And there's another mod that allows you to replace those default trains with other models. For example, the one we have seen at E3. There, though, this water at the window effect is not there. But instead, you can look into the train now from outside. I should also mention that there are, I think, 2 camera perspectives, one outside, one inside the train, and you can switch seats inside the train as well with mouse wheel. So that is also pretty awesome. A limitation is though that it seems there can't be passengers in the train, so it's always empty, which is a bit unfortunate, but I think it's a limitation that the modders are facing. Also, if you use a mod for a different train model, you can have the problem that the first character position, so the character sits inside the train, is a little bit bugged and he kind of flies in the air. You can simply with mouse wheel switch the positions and then this should fix the issue. One downside of this mod is that you kind of lose fast travel points, because the entrances to train stations were in the base game fast travel points. Now they teleport you into an elevator. From there you go to the actual train station that was added into the game by this mod, and from where you can enter the train. Also costs a little bit of money if you enter a train. So the fast travel from there isn't working anymore. However, you can still from other points fast travel to those stations though. But it's not that big of a downside, to be honest, just as a little hint here. Stealthrunner. For people who like the stealthier approach, especially in Cyberpunk, this is such a cool mod. It does a lot of things. First of all, it adds to every main story, side story, gig or whatever in the game additional stealth objectives that are also tracked at the quest tracker on the side. So that in of itself is pretty cool. But it also rewards you for fulfilling these now shown optional objectives. And you get like a little bit of money, experience points and also perk points for it. This though of course has an impact on the actual gameplay, so it's difficult to predict if this is good to have on your first playthrough or not, so you have to decide yourself. I would say it's more maybe for people on the second playthrough. It's arguable how big the impact of this really is. What it also does is it tracks certain stats in the game, like how many people you killed or just knocked out, and it also adds new perks to the game, for example pickpocketing. For pickpocketing, you have to sneak behind an enemy NPC, so an enemy character. Neutral ones, it doesn't work. And there you can sneak behind, hold R, an item pops up, and then you can loot it with F from there and get it into your inventory, which is a pretty cool feature and also, in my opinion, should be in the base game, I think. But also some of the other stealth perks that you get with this new tree basically are pretty cool in my opinion. Overall, definitely a nice to have mod, and keep in mind that all these stealth and ghosting additional objectives you get are purely optional, so you don't have to do them. So especially if you're on your second playthrough, you can just install it, get some benefits maybe from it, and if you want to stealth you can do this, if not, then not. It's definitely a nice to have mod and I like it a lot. Keep in mind that when the big Cyberpunk 2.0 patch comes out, that all the perk trees and so on will be completely rebalanced. Hard to tell how this will interact with this particular mod, so it might not work for some time. And this brings us already at the end of this far too long mod showcase, even though I have still so many mods left I would love to talk about. For example, the Atelier mod, which is just an additional shop where you can buy stuff from any computer with internet in the game. So for example, from your home computer. And you can expand this Atelier mod and just buy food, clothes, weapons, and so on from there. There's a car dealers mod where you can buy additional cars that you can mod into the game as well. Also pretty cool. There's a completely car handling and car speed rebalancing mod. There's a car tuning mod that allows you to change car stats at a certain location on the map and stuff like this. A lot of cool stuff. Maybe, like I said, look into my spreadsheet where I listed all the stuff. There are mods that I have not covered here yet and maybe cover in a future episode. If you want to see a future episode, a future showcase like this, let me know in the comments, please. Also give me some of your mod recommendations there. Further, if you found this remotely useful or interesting, maybe press the like button and of course subscribe. I definitely would appreciate that. I would say, if you want to see more gameplay stuff and so on, or me playing through Phantom Liberty when it comes out, I will do this most likely on my Twitch channel. Check that out as well. I would say, thank you people for watching and see you next time. Goodbye.